What up, Savages? Lightweight UFC fighter Drew Dober here. Most knockouts in the lightweight division. Welcome to the Savage Gentleman Show.
Getting better at these. The first two ones. Andrew Martin Dober. Thank you so much for coming on the Savage Gentleman Show. I understand you grew up in Omaha, Nebraska.
Yep, where all the Savage Gentlemen are.
Yeah. What was life like growing up as a kid? Do you remember what kind of initially got you into fighting, or what got you even interested in it? I understand you wrestled in high school, but why MMA?
So my go-to answer is I can't run, jump, or catch a ball. So my options were limited. But no, honestly, it was I was just a nerd growing up, and I fell in love with like Bloodsport, Jean-Claude Van Damme movies, Dragon Ball Z, Japanese anime, and it was just one of those things where like I just loved combat, or at least watching it. And one of these days, I think I was like 12 years old. I looked in the phone pages, found a local martial arts gym, and decided I'll just walk to it. Asked what the tuition was, and they told me it was like $50 a month. So I walked over to the next fast food restaurant, got a job just to pay for it, and I was just really lucky that I found a gym that wasn't just karate, taekwondo, but they actually showed MMA. And it was actually one of the gyms that Jeremy Horn used to train at.
I think Jeremy Horn was like this crazy winning streak at one time, even submitted Chuck Liddell, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's something in the water in Omaha, Nebraska. I mean, we have numerous UFC fighters, probably pound for pound best boxer in the world. I mean, Omaha, Nebraska, no one's heard of it. I wouldn't advise going, but man, we're just creating just fighters like no other.
So what makes a 12-year-old want to do that? Most 12-year-olds are interested in Legos. Most 12-year-olds are interested in popularity in school. Most 12-year-olds are trying to see if they can get a girl to look at them. What made you go, okay, I'm 12, but what I really want to do is fight. In order to fight, I've got to work. I understand you were raised by a single mom. Did you get that work ethic from her?
Oh, yeah. I mean, everything that I've learned as far as resilience, courage, and a little bit of stupidity, I got from my mother. And I mean, she raised me like a boy, and she was pretty much my mom, dad. But I mean, when I fell in love with fighting and martial arts was just the raw aspect of self improvement. I mean, I loved challenges. I love overcoming challenges, and I love like creating goals and then chasing those goals. But the whole ball sport thing is like you rely so heavily on your teammates, circumstances. Where fighting, it was just the tougher man wins, or the more intelligent man wins. And so when I joined martial arts, I realized I had a knack for it. And it could have been a passion, it could have been genetics, who knows, but I fell in love. Now, my very first cage fight was Frank Shamrock against Jeremy Horn.
Wow.
And in this scenario, up against the fence, Jeremy Horn takes the back, lifts, goes for a return, and as Frank Shamrock was getting lifted, he hooks the leg and falls into a knee bar. And I went, no, that wasn't athleticism. That wasn't, bravado, the toughest man won. That was the most intelligent man. It's physical chess. And I fell in love with that, and I thought to myself, fighting is the constant search of self-improvement, and that's what I love, is another man teaches me what I'm not doing well enough at, and it's my job to get better and overcome it.
So who would you say your mentor was growing up?
I mean, growing up, it was like Jean-Claude Van Damme, all the superheroes, Logan, Wolverine. Yeah, I wouldn't say I had just one superhero. I think in my mind, or hero, my mind, he wasn't there yet. Like I'm not seeing the man that I'm trying to become, because he's not there yet. So I grab pieces of various people, whether they're fighter, athlete, celebrity, or even just people in my family. But yeah, it was just the goal of just becoming a man that I've never seen before.
Have you ever had a moment like in a fight or even in training where you felt that fatigue or that injury, and that kind of creeping desire to quit started slowly coming in on you? And what did you do to combat that?
I mean, so many times.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, you talk to any fighter, like the feeling of quit is constant.
Really?
Like sitting down is the easiest thing you can do.
Yeah.
Just be done with it. So yeah, numerous times. But I was quite blessed with the mother that I had, and quit was never an option. And she really distilled into me, like, once you make the decision and you step forward, you see to the end. Period. And so my very first fight ever was in a cage with a referee, and the dude hit me so hard. But in that moment, I decided like, I don't go out like this. Like I refuse to quit. That kind of just played on like in every single fight. I mean, I fought local champion with heavy hands, knocked me down 3 times in the first round, but let's see how he does in the second. It's just one of these things where like quit is never an option. Is you keep running forward until someone else tells you to stop.
And then speaking of getting hit, I mean, you've been in there with the who's who of MMA. I mean, you've been there with literally everyone. You go through the UFC rankings, everyone in your division, you fought every name. What's the hardest you've been hit in there? And what was the one that surprised you the most?
Oh, I mean, we're gonna be completely honest. He's not in the UFC. He's not even
Mm.
ranked. But the hardest man to ever hit me was Tony Sims, and he was the
Wow. That is
lightweight
old school.
Colorado champion. And man, when I fought him, he had what, a 7-0 record with 7 first round knockouts, and I was like, yeah, he's tough. Let's hear it. He knocked me down 3 times in the first round, and I mean, I narrowly escaped that first, ended up winning that fight by split decision. But then I had the opportunity to move to Colorado and train with him, and he was still the hardest hitting dude in the gym.
Yeah.
Like every time I sparred him, I saw stars. Like the guy had such a natural gift, just put people's lights out. And then as far as the hardest fight in the UFC, I mean, it's hard to tell because I fought Islam, who was just
Yeah.
so well put together that like there was no mistakes and no evidence of success. Like I couldn't do anything to him. But then I had these drug out fights with like a Frank Carabello who has a coconut for a head, and I couldn't knock him down. I couldn't TKO him. Like the dude kept coming forward, and that like I had to bite my mouthpiece and really go because I was gonna put him out, and I refused to be put out as well. So that was probably one of my most toughest for dexterity.
Speaking of coconuts for heads, you're kind of well known for your face and your jaw and everything. But from what I hear from what we were talking earlier, you weren't always this guy. There was some times where you walked around a little heavier. There was times that you didn't always monitor your diet. I understand you really like cooking. What's something that you've done personally that's kind of shaped you into who you are today?
Oh
You know,
man.
mentally and physically.
Well, I mean, I was the Patty Pimlet before Patty. I
Okay.
mean, like things got excessive in between camps. And I went to culinary school. I loved cooking. I worked as a baker for 2 years to supplement my fighting. And I mean, being surrounded by donuts when you're cutting weight,
Oof. Yeah.
it doesn't help the after fight victory, eating. And yeah, no, I got ballooned up. I got big, and um, I think the biggest adjustment I made was is learning that things don't need to be in an extreme, right? So the problem didn't start after the fight where I was eating 2 boxes of donuts. It started before the fight when I was only eating egg whites because, I'm very serious about my
Hmm.
job. I'm gonna win this fight. I'm gonna do everything it takes. And I was just limiting my fun, limiting my entertainment because I have a job to do. And I found it just created like a caged animal. So after the fight, I would go nuts and eat 8 cheeseburgers. So now the biggest adjustment I made was I allowed myself to have a little bit of fun. It was a glass of wine at night. If it's a big ribeye after the weekend, or some pancakes because I trained really hard. Like, I give myself the out, and so now I'm no longer a cage animal. I have fun always.
You always have a smile on your face. It doesn't seem like there's a whole lot in this world that gets you down. What is it that actually affects Drew Dober?
Yeah, my smile is well practiced. It also helps that I love my job. I love fighting and I love martial arts so much that I can't help to have a smile on my face. Now it's the perfectionism, it's the drive, it's the trying to overcome obstacles, and at the end of the day when the doors close, I'm in my house. I mean, things do get hard. I mean,
Yeah.
weight cut isn't
Yeah.
easy. Getting beat up and punched in the mouth isn't easy. But what I learned with fighting is life isn't always easy, but where can you find the smile under the uncomfort? And I think that's what fighting has taught me.
You once said that being perfect is boring. Expound on that.
Oh man, I tell myself that, and so I had the opportunity to express it to others. But every single book that you've read that like motivated you, every song that you heard that was profound, every story in history of these people, like there's an extreme conflict. There is the hero that has to overcome an obstacle or find a way out, or in the music it's dramatic. It's like rise and overcome and get after it and all that other stuff. And it just made me realize that like man, could you imagine reading a perfect book where the
Mm,
guy woke up, was
right, right.
successful, and
Did
went to
everything
bed?
right,
Dude,
answered every question perfectly,
nobody
never
wants to read
fell.
that book.
Yeah,
Nobody wants to read that
yeah,
book. Every boxing movie, Rocky didn't even win his fight,
right.
in Rocky 1, but it was one of the best films ever. And so it's just understanding that the struggle, the conflict, and what you consider your problems are going to be the stories that you're telling your grandchildren.
What is your greatest accomplishment outside of the octagon?
Oh man, I'm gonna get all giddy and talk about this last year, and this is actually the first time I'm talking about it. And 2020 was it? Yeah, last year was 2023. Unfortunately, I dropped 2 fights. However, it was the best year of my life.
Hmm.
Why? Because I have the notoriety in the UFC. I'm putting on fantastic fights. I'm getting compensated finally for the amount
All
of
those years.
damage
Yeah.
I've put myself in a position to where I moved my mother and grandmother out closer to me. I have my wife. I have my daughter now who just started saying dada and she needs me. So as of 2024, I have the ability and the opportunity to take care of 5 generations of women,
Wow.
and I'm the man of the house. And man, I'm quite blessed and very grateful that this little child that decided to fight people in cages, I can now take care of my family, and it just means a lot to me.
What would it take you to walk away from Sonya?
Walk away from my daughter?
Hmm.
No, nothing.
So, when someone like yourself experienced that as a kid with a dad that walks away, how much more responsibility do you feel to her? Like, you're never going to feel what I feel. You're never going to go through what I went through. I will always be there for you.
Yeah, and I think that's what stemmed the I'm trying to be the man I've never seen. It's like I don't know what a dad or like a father love is like. I don't know what a grandfather's love is like, and I've never seen like a positive male role model. So now I'm just trying to be the man I've never seen, and with my daughter is I'm going to do the things that I've never done before. I'm going to be the person that I've never seen. It's like this complete unknown, and like and fighting has taught me with this wild west of a career that like we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, but I'm going to do everything I possibly can. And as a father and as a fighter and as a husband, this is what I'm trying to do.
Well, I think you should know that anytime we see your name on the card, we're tuning in. I mean, you are the Donald Cerrone of the UFC. If your name's on the card, we're watching, we're tuning in. I've never seen you in a boring fight. I don't care if you win, I don't care if you lose, I want to watch it. And I think my sentiment is shared by a lot of fans around the world. So we really appreciate what you've put into it. You may not always get the feedback, but I'm telling you, man, you're a fan favorite.
Well, I greatly appreciate it. I mean, a lot of blood,
Yeah.
sweat, and tears will go into every single one of my performances, but I mean, you only live once, and I'd much rather live with regret than regret I never did.
Yeah.
And so every moment I'm in the octagon, I'm trying to create a story.
So what do you want to do after fighting? I mean, you're 36 years old now. You know, you've got what over 42 fights in your career, probably more fights that aren't on there that were unsanctioned fights. Like you said, you got the most knockouts in light heavyweight history. What's next for you? What do you want to do next?
I mean, I'm trying to make as much money as I
Yeah.
possibly can, before the finish line. But afterwards, I mean, you got to chase passion. You got to
Hmm.
follow your heart, and like it's never like dumbed down. It's never been deterred. Like my love for fighting in martial arts has never faltered,
Hmm.
whatever. So with the experience and then the knowledge I have, I would love to stay in the field. So it's either going to be broadcasting, whether I'm going to be talking about my opinions,
Sure.
on ESPN.
Some commentating?
Commentating would be a lot of fun. I mean, I got to figure out if people want to hear my voice that
Yeah, yeah.
much. Coaching has been a huge passion of mine, and I've done enough coaching to know how much I love it. But my opinion, you can't be a fighter and a coach and
Hmm.
do it respectfully. So when I hang up my gloves, I'm probably going to be helping other people string on their gloves.
Yeah. We see you bring a lot of bling to the table. Can we get a close-up on some of the stuff that you're rocking today? Is this
I
something
get
you
it?
like to do?
So what happened was, so I buy a dress jacket for every single fight, and so this is currently my Bobby Green jacket, but we ran out of colors, and so now we were looking into like lavender and pink, and like they just don't look good on me. So I was like, all right, I gotta change it up, and so we started doing jewelry. So now I have purchases, and this is my Rafael Alves.
Wow.
And so now whether it's a jacket or a jewelry, it's got a tombstone to it.
Do you remember the first time we met?
I don't. Now, please remind me. Oh, yeah, my face wasn't fat, so it was fairly recent. Yeah, but you look good.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, I think we both lost a lot of
Yeah,
weight
there we
from
go.
that
We
picture.
Hope so. We hope so. Yeah. Well, before we let you go, there's a couple things I always like to ask. First, if you have anything you want to plug, anything that you've been working on, if you got a clothing brand, a sponsor, anything that you'd like us to be aware of, please, the floor is yours, so plug away.
I mean, as of right now, the first one that comes to mind is, yeah, we look great and everything, but the best thing about my outfit is these pants. Jaywalker apparel, the stretchy pants for every occasion. So, yeah, talk shit in a bar, I might head kick you.
Yeah. And then where can people find you? I mean, plug your Instagram. If you have a personal page, if you have a business or something, please.
I mean, social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, it's at Drew Dober. It's fairly easy. I love talking to fight fans, fellow fighters, all the above. So my big thing is if you memorize the tag, shoot me a message and then tell me what you think. Whether it's positive or negative, I love hearing it.
Okay. Before we let you go,
Yeah.
I understand you got a big fight coming up here. Can you talk to us about your opponent and what you are excited about this fight? And maybe, don't give away the game plan, but some holes that you're seeing, some opportunities that you're looking at and going, actually, this is a very winnable fight for me.
So I'm fighting UFC Mexico City against Manuel Torres, I believe. And man, fun story actually. I hung out with the guy at the PI not too long ago. 2 hours in the sauna, just shooting the shit, hanging out, and then yeah, a couple weeks later, we're scheduled to fight each other now. So I really like him, and then from what I've seen, power puncher. I mean, he does
That's a bit like you.
well, he does the Mexican fight fans a
Yeah,
favor,
yeah.
and he fights like a Mexican, and he fights very similar to me. Now, what I've been doing, it could be this fight, it could be many fights, but I need to start fighting my age. I need to start being a little bit more intelligent in my fights, showcasing a lot more fight IQ. And I know I got the power in the hands. I'm very durable, but I want to see if he can hit me and if he can avoid my elusive strikes. And so I'm going to be the more evolved version, and I think he's going to come in with what I have been in the past.
Yeah. Well, honestly, we cannot wait to see it. We can't thank you enough for coming on the show. Once you're done your fight, after you get your win, come back on here. Let's talk about it again. You're an awesome guest. We can't wait to have you again. You bring great energy. We'd love to hear more of your stories. So let's do this again, in a couple months to see how you're doing.
Anytime, and the
Yeah.
next time, hopefully, I'm a little bit more swollen, and but with a victory.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would love to be a part of it.
Yeah. How was your overall experience on the Savage Gentleman Show?
I mean, overall experience, you guys are great. I mean, the conversation's easy, the podcast is fun, and for being a fighter that does quite a bit of interviews, I mean, this is probably the more entertaining ones.
Okay.
But you did get the dad out of the house after 7 p.m.
So you
But-
gotta go, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, invite me back anytime. Just
Thank you
next
so
time,
much,
a
Drew.
little bit more whiskey.
I really appreciate it. Awesome, man. That was really good.